Before we get started, I do want to let you know we are recording this presentation. It will be on the district website, so if you weren't able to attend K2, that presentation will be on the website as well. So to be mindful of that, you can put QR codes with the website on your tables, and that is for us. If you guys have questions throughout the presentation, fill out that form, and your building math coach will respond to you within the next week with answering all your questions. We just want to be mindful because we are recording, and this is going on the district website, that we're being mindful of that. Sound good? Awesome. So welcome. This is 3rd through 5th grade here at Math Night. We're so happy you guys are taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with us tonight. I am Jacqueline Brand. This is my 2nd year as Kildare Elementary School's math coach. Formerly, I taught 8th grade math at Woodlawn Middle School. I taught the 8th grade Common Core course as well as Stevenson High School's Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 course.
I am Samantha Heinrich, formerly Samantha Clegg, if you've seen me before. This is my 5th year as a math coach, but I used to teach 3rd grade at Country Meadows. Before that, I was an instructional aide at Kildare. I've been at Prairie for a few years, but we're excited to share some information about bridges with you guys today.
So here's tonight's goals. The first one is to become familiar with what your child's math block looks like while they're at school. They have 80 minutes of math, so hopefully we'll show you a little bit about what that looks like in their school day. We're going to give you a little bit of clarity around what Bridges math is versus number quarter, which I'm sure you've been hearing your kids talk about, as well as we're going to explore the various ways your child engages with math while they're in the classroom. So a little bit about Bridges. It was created by a nonprofit called the Math Learning Center, and it is classroom-focused, mission-driven, and research-based. So Bridges plays an active role and allows students to be creators of their own learning. It also talks a lot about how students are able to share observations and their thinking and ask questions and critique the reasoning of their responses. Students are able to engage with the math in a fun way. There's hands-on activities that allow them to use math tools and visual models to really help them engage and have that conceptual understanding of math come into play. Bridges also builds the stamina for solving complex problems. We know that that is something that we have to continue to make sure our students are able to do, knowing that they're going to middle school and knowing that they're going to Stevenson High School. We really want them to be able to be problem solvers, not just solve problems. At the end of the day, Bridges is rigorous, coherent, engaging, and it's accessible for all learners. We do everything we can to meet the needs of all of our students, and Bridges helps us do that. So when your students are learning math, it's a twofold process. There's the content standards that they're learning that are laid out by the Common Core, which are embedded into the Bridges curriculum. But there's also the math practices, The state standards, or the Common Core standards, are the what. That's what they're learning, that's the skills, the content. The standards of mathematical practice are how they engage in the math. And this was one of the reasons we chose Bridges, is the way that they get students to think about math and how they engage with the learning. So I'm going to go through them sort of briefly, but we have some pictures here to help make sense of them. So the first one is one of the most important, because there's not very many times you do math where this is not happening. Making sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So the more flexible your child is as a thinker, the more likely they'll be able to persevere. Because if one path doesn't work, they can be flexible and try another one. So this happens all the time in math. Number 2 is to reason abstractly and quantitatively. This is your child's ability to think about numbers just as numbers, compute, solve equations, but then it's also their ability to work in the context of a word problem and make sense of it in a word problem, and really understand numbers as quantities, not just as numbers. The next one is to construct viable arguments and to critique the reasoning of others. This is alive and well in Bridges. There are so many opportunities in the instruction for your child to talk to other students and A, share their thinking, but almost more importantly, listen to the thinking of others. Learn from their peers, give them feedback, ask them questions, and really learn from each other, as well as feeling that ability to have their voice as mathematicians. Modeling. This is something I know is new to most of us as we learn math, the models that go along. So being able to not just solve a problem, but also to see it as a picture and make sense of it a picture and go back and forth. Using tools. It's something I think is overlooked in math, that we want to teach our children to know what tool to use when they come across a real life problem. If I'm coming across something in life, no one's walking by and sticking some rulers on my desk. I need to know to go get them, right? I need to go to get the math or the scale, or I need to know what tool is going to help me solve the problem. Attending precision, I think, speaks for itself. But the thing I want to point out is it's not just precision in calculation, it's also precision in language. Being able to use the correct mathematical terms and really work on, again, their ability to speak and sound like mathematicians. Look for and make use of structure. Kind of like the modeling, it's helping kids look for how things are put together. An example, more of a primary example, is adding the number 7 plus 4. I was working with a first grader just today, and he explained to me that, well, I can take a 1 from the 7 and make a 5. And now I've got 5 plus 6, and that's a problem that's easier for me to solve. So if I understand that numbers can be taken apart and put back together, that's that student paying attention to structure. Looking for and expressing regularity, repeated reasoning. Humans are natural pattern finders. That's what this is. It's helping your child recognize that it's important to look for patterns, but you can't just assume that they always will occur. You have to prove that the pattern will continue to exist. And that's a really big part of learning to think like a mathematician. So, like I said, these are the how your child will engage with math. So in everything we do during the math instruction, these are going to be embedded into helping them think and become more and more like mathematicians.
So for your students in 3rd through 5th grade, the Bridges curriculum has 4 big components of what their 60-minute math block looks like. The first thing is called a problem and investigation. This is your typical lesson that students are engaging in. It's what that learning target is, and it might be whole group, small group, independent. It's kind of that typical lesson that how we kind of learn math. The next is a workplace, and a workplace is a game. It's usually a partner game, and what this is this reinforces the skills that they are learning in maybe those problems and investigations. So this is that independent and or partner work that they're able to engage in. We have math forums, so if you have a student in K through 2, they do not engage in math forums. And math forums are when they are explaining their thinking out loud, kind of like a town hall meeting. And so what they do is during a problem investigation that maybe the teacher taught yesterday, the next day at school, they're actually doing a math forum, and the teacher has strategically chosen what students they're going to call on based on the models that they observed them doing the day before. And the last thing is a problem string. Again, problem strings are only for 3rd through 5th grade. And what problem strings do is kind of like what Sam was saying about that repeated reasoning in the math practices. Problem strings give students an easy problem to start, and then they get harder and harder for hopefully students able to see what the pattern is and be strategic when they're trying to solve. So let's dive in a little bit more about problems and investigations. So these are whole group, like I said, independent or partner work. And what the teacher usually does is they're going to pose a problem, and then students are going to just investigate and think through that problem throughout the course of the math lesson. You can see we've got lots of students engaging throughout all of our elementary schools. These are them engaging in these problems and investigations. We've got some cute pictures up there, huh? Anyone see their kid? Next thing, let's talk about workplaces. So here are some pictures of all of your cute children in workplaces, and you can see these kids love them. They are so engaged. They love being in workplaces. Workplaces is also a time that our teachers can pull small groups for differentiation and individual needs. So this is a time where the teacher can relinquish control to the students, that frees up time to work independently with So here's a video of some, what classroom is this?
It's a third grade classroom at Ivy Hall.
Third grade classroom at Ivy Hall, engaging in workplaces. So just a little snapshot of a classroom that seemed really well managed. The teacher did a really nice job giving the expectations to students what they have to do when they are in workplaces, so that was an opportunity for a teacher to then pull a small group. So we're going to have you guys engage in a workplace. So this workplace comes from 5th grade Unit 1 in the Bridges curriculum. And what this workplace is it's called the multiplication, the product game. And what we're going to do is me and Sam are going to model first how you play, and then you'll have a couple minutes to play with your table. So the purpose of this game is to practice what? What do we think we're practicing? The product game, which is practicing multiplication, one of our learning targets in 5th grade. And so what we're going to do is, Sam, can I be yellow?
Yeah.
Thanks. And Sam, I want to start on 5.
Right, I will be green, and I will start on 4.
So the person who's shortest goes first. Yeah. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to say 5 times 4 is 20. So then I'm going to mark 20 on my board.
So when you guys play, you can do X's and O's. On the screen, for me to write with the mouse is very hard, so we're going to use colored markers if that's okay. But when you guys play, you can do X's and O's. So you said what number?
5 times 4 is 20.
All right, so the yellow marker there.
So the purpose of this game is you want to get 4 in a row. The first to get 4 in a row wins. So Sam, it's now Sam's turn, and what Sam has to do, she's only allowed to move 1 marker. She can put the marker on top of another marker, but she's only allowed to use 1 marker to make her next strategic move. So Sam, where do you want to move your marker?
All right, I'm going to move the 5, and I'm going to move it to a 7, because I would like to take the 28. So now I can put my marker on 28.
Sam, I'm going to move the 7 to the 3.
What would you like?
4 times 3 is 12.
All right. I'm going to move the 4 to the 9 and give myself 3 times 9 is 27. Oops, no color. 3 times 9 is 27.
So we can keep doing this all day, but it's going to get super competitive because we are math geeks up here. So what we're going to have you do is, it's super fun and the kids love it also. So what we're going to have you do is take a moment. There are chips on your table as well as those product game boards. Take a moment, find a partner, and engage in this game for us for just a little bit. Alrighty, so I'm going to gather you guys back here. One thing I forgot to mention is if your child is really good at multiplication and they know their facts and they're good at finding products and they can do it efficiently and accurately, Bridges offers variation boards. So there's like a challenge board that has higher numbers on the grid and then has them multiply something like 3 products. And they have to now, they still can only move 1 or 2 chips, but they now have to multiply 3 numbers. So it does scale forward and back to meet the needs of all of our students, whether they're needing enrichment or whether they're needing intervention. So thinking about the game you just played, you weren't just doing multiplication facts. So think about what other thinking had to take place while you were playing that game? Take a moment to think about that. You weren't just doing multiplication. So take a moment, talk with your table groups. What other thinking had to happen for you to be successful to play that game? Go ahead, talk with your table groups. So who wants to be brave? Share with us. What other thinking had to happen while you were playing that game? So think like your child. What other thinking had to happen while you were playing that game?
I heard something over here.
Strategies, right? You had to be really strategic, whether you were playing catch-up every single time that your partner was making these great moves. Who was playing catch-up? Was anyone following their partner, just blocking them every time, right? What else? What else had to happen? Okay.
So like 8 times 5.
Oh, you make 8 times 5.
Yes.
Literally, I should be helping my son. I meant in our game. In our game.
You kept blocking each other, so you had a hard time making 10. Got you. So you can see that, yes, your kid was practicing multiplication, they were finding products, but they had to be strategic, and they had to be mathematical thinkers to actually be successful in the game. If you sat in any of our 5th grade classrooms in the last couple weeks and playing this game, it got heated. The kids would play this for so long, and they loved it because it made them think. It made them challenge what their opponent was doing. So it was a really cool activity. You guys like it?
Yeah, that's fun.
So that is a workplace. So that's when students are engaging in games throughout the math class.
Is this available on Sony PlayStation?
Oh,
Yeah, right?
Right? With like a few more characters.
Will be tomorrow.
All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is math forums. These are very new to our students and your children. So it's something we're definitely working on, building their capacity around. So this is a lot of words, but basically your children are working on a series of problems, or it could be one really intense problem. And what the teacher is doing is asking questions, learning about their thinking, and recording different strategies that they see going on. And it might be strategies that they think are accessible to everybody, that they want to celebrate, or it might be strategies that other students haven't thought of, and they'd like to introduce it to the group and let them learn from each other. And the neat thing about it is that it's really about the student explaining their thinking, and then the class is asking questions, and it's not their chance to share their thinking, but they have to ask questions to share. They have to really try to get to know what that person was understanding or thinking in order to solve it. It's a really neat engagement, but definitely something we're working on, since that practice of asking each other questions is sort of new for a lot of our students. So this is something called a Math Forum Planner. This is actually 3rd grade did this week. I think maybe even today, in their classroom. So they solved this problem about, it's a fish, Chloe, the clownfish, and they're talking about how much bigger another fish is than her. So kind of getting to think about comparing with multiplication. And the students had to solve it. And they have these different strategies. So they used Chloe. Maybe they did their fingers like this to measure the size of the fish. Or this other strategy is maybe they created a piece of paper that was the same as Chloe, and another piece of paper that was the size of the bigger fish. Some other strategies that we might see are something with proportional relationships, a little more sophisticated, thinking about multiplication. They might double in some way. They can use a strategy called partial products. So you can see the strategies sort of go from like least sophisticated to most sophisticated. And that's on purpose, because we want to get everybody engaged and then build up their capacity gradually to start thinking about a strategy that they hadn't quite explored yet. And we may not see all of these strategies. If they don't show up, we don't have anyone explain it because it wasn't a strategy used. Or if my children use a different strategy I didn't expect, I can write it down and choose them to share. So we can have 2 students share, maybe 3, 4, however many make sense for the classroom. Very fun though. And again, that's only for grades 3 through 5, and given the conversation aspect, it makes sense why it's appropriate for them. The last thing that your child might see during that 60-minute math block is a problem string. These are super cool. They're basically, if you think about the analogy of a string, right? All the fibers are woven together, right? Keep making them all interact. That's what these problems are. They start with something really simple, and then they build on each other. And applying that same strategy so students can see, wow, I can do that with that one. When I do it with a harder problem, it makes it so much easier to solve. And then they work on these harder and harder problems and realize that a problem that normally maybe they would have looked at and said, no way. They now have a strategy to have to solve it. Even no matter what level, children are very engaged with these because they want to share and they want to find those connections and they want to find the patterns. So it really reaches all levels. So here are some pictures of some number strings going on. So that's a teacher getting ready. And then over here is a student's notebook, so they record the problem string as we go. Here's the finished problem strings. Sometimes teachers put them on chart paper and hang them up. Sometimes they just have them on the board. This is actually Mr. Pangalinen's class. He puts them on the board as a designated student to take a picture and send it to everybody. So we borrowed her iPad to get some of these. So there's some more. You can see there's different models that travel along the way to introduce them to these new models and have them apply them. So all those different parts of the Bridges math curriculum can happen in any way, shape, form, and order. So no 2 days really tend to be the same in our instructional time, which keeps it exciting and keeps it engaging and gives the kids lots to look forward to. So we're going to talk now about another amazing component to our curriculum.
So those last 4 workouts, those were for the Bridges curriculum. That is what your student engages in for 60 minutes a day. Bridges has, the Math Learning Center has another component called Number Corner. That is 20 minutes in their school day. And what Number Corner is a pathway for computational fluency. So what it does is it has students look for patterns and reason with patterns, collect data, reason with data. And it is a great way for students to really engage with the math what am I trying to say? It's a way for students to engage in the math daily and see repetition. So going back to that standard mathematical practice of repeated reasoning. So a number corner can look a ton of different ways within the classroom. It is set up, there's a calendar, it's a calendar-based program, so every month there's a new pattern that the students try to figure out what the pattern is over time. And they do some collection on those patterns, as well as some observations and collecting that data. So Number Corner, here's Sam, this is for you.
So with Bridges, we went through each part in great detail. We're going to be a little bit shorter with this because there's a lot of different things they might engage in. So I'm just going to speak to each one. So calendar grid, like Jacqueline was just explaining, it sounds very elementary, sounds really primary for older students, but they love it. It is one of their favorite parts of Number Corner because I'll show you some pictures. Every day they turn over a card on the calendar and they have to look for patterns and predict what's coming next. And they're writing equations to match them or applying new strategies. They really seem to enjoy figuring out what's coming next on the calendar. So who knew that 5th graders would be all about this? Calendar collector is something, it ranges in skill. So 5th grade right now is collecting layers for volume and studying how the orientation of a shape is affected by the base changing. 2nd grade was collecting minutes every day and watching how time moves. 3rd grade was collecting, you collect something different. Next month, 3rd grade is collecting water and watching how volume and capacity affect each other. So it ranges widely if you look at collect. But every day that the students are in school, they add to their collection. So 1st grade was money. They counted pennies and nickels. So they're dealing with nickels and coins every single day. So you can imagine that repetition really starts to set home some of the concepts that they're engaging with. Again, computational fluency, kind of self-explanatory, really working on a lot of just making sure they're really fluent with those addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, next. Sometimes it's games that they're playing, like a product game could be in there, third grade game, play the game called Groups and Groups. So it can range in its format as well. The number line is for our younger grade levels, first through third. It's also pretty self-explanatory. The kids are counting things on the number line and watching it grow. I think second grade's working on decades. So every time they get to 10, something big happens. Really understanding how 10 gets into 100 and so on and so forth. Solving problems. This is a lot kind of like the math forums where they're solving really engaging problems, working with their peers, really working to become problem solvers and build their strength to persevere. And problem strings make a debut here as well. So they're both bridges and the number corner. So kind of just to clarify, any of these things could be happening. Usually maybe 2 of them a day is the most that'll happen, but it ranges all the time. Things like calendar grid and calendar collector happen quickly every day, and then every so often we'll stop and have a really in-depth discussion about what we see and notice and have learned from the experience. And the kids also seem to really enjoy this. You never know how they're going to react to some of these activities, and they seem to really be engaged with that whole idea of what's coming next, and repetition is really fun to see. So here's some examples. It doesn't have to be a corner, although the name implies that. This is a third grade classroom. Where it's just all the different parts of number corner. The kids meet and have all these discussions there. This is a 5th grade number corner. So they were working with fractions, clock fractions, and money is fractions, using those models to help them make sense of how fractions relate to each other. Specific equivalence of fractions was huge in this month. So you can see that with the volume, also with the layers. For volume, every day they collected a layer. And then that was a chart that they were collecting for the, this was the layer a day. So that was the record sheet up top. That's what they were noticing every day, and they were looking for those patterns. So kind of just some visuals to help you see what's going on. So overall, that's the bulk of Bridges without giving you the full-blown teacher training. But we really are excited about it, but we are sensitive to that this is new. And just like Common Core curriculum is new, there are some pieces of this curriculum that are new. So we wanted to give you some ideas of things to do when you are at home. Ask your child to look for math, use that vocabulary, build their capacity to use math vocabulary and sound like a mathematician. Dreambox is still an amazing resource that's accessible to your child. It's not aligned to Bridges, but it's aligned to Common Core, which Bridges also is. And it's at your child's level. It's still an amazing resource. I would also really, really recommend taking the time, if you haven't already, to read the family letters that come home. They're really well written, and if there's any models that are new to you and your family, they really do a nice job of explaining how those are being used in the classroom. If you have questions beyond what those have, contact your teacher, contact one of us. We'd be happy to help you make sense of things if there's something new. And yeah, play with these games at home. I know a couple of families ask for some of the extra sheets to take home. If you want to bring some games home, have your child play them, feel free. That'd be always fun. I think that is where we will close up.
So thank you so much again for taking the time to be here tonight. To be respectful of everyone's time, the QR code in the website is for you guys to be able to ask questions, and then the math coach from your child's building will be able to answer those. But thank you so much. Here's a list of the math coaches from each building, but please reach out. I absolutely appreciate you being here and supporting your students as mathematicians at home. Thank you.